Welcome everybody. Who I am? First of all, I am Maddalena Fiordelli, a postdoc researcher at the Università della Svizzera Italiana in Lugano. And we came across this project. A brief index of what I'm going to tell you now. So, how we came across this project and what's our role there, the research design, and a brief description of the methodology. Then we will go into the interesting parts of the data analysis, and I will show you the results from the two steps of the observation we made, and then I will draw some conclusion. Okay, I was telling you I'm part of the ICH, which is the Institute of Communication and Health, which came across ACE project in January 2010, so when the project already started from a couple of months. And we had this great opportunity to join the project in May 2010 as a silent partner, meaning that we were funded by our confederation, because at that time we couldn't be part from the beginning of this kind of project. And we were interested in understanding how ICT, so how this communication mediated by computers, can contribute to the empowerment of these adults suffering from ASD and can help them improving their communication skills. And we were interested in evaluation research, meaning we wanted to understand how these things were going on during the project. We have to say we had some initial difficulties with the research design, because we were struggling about how we can give our best contribution to the project. But we found out that, as already Johnny said, the sample was quite small, so we initially thought about a quantitative study, which implied the use of a survey which was too long, so it makes it difficult for participants to answer the survey. So we opted for a qualitative method with an observational design. So first of all, the users were observing their natural context and they were interviewed there. And we did an in-depth analysis of their experience through the use of face-to-face interview in order to avoid the problem of the length of the survey and to avoid the problem of the size of the sample. So really briefly, the pros and cons of this research design is that since our study, in the first place we wanted to understand how the communication skill changed during the time. Then we discovered, for the problem I mentioned just in the slide before, that we should use a more explorative approach, so to understand how this experience was going on, to try to be a bit more descriptive. And in this way we could have a deeper knowledge of their experience. We would have been able to describe what they experienced. We could have an easy access to information, because we could ask them, how they feel, what they experienced during the time, and we could have given a better overall picture of what happened. The cons were, of course, in the same time it was an explorative study, and again we couldn't say something really precise and to generalize it, and so, even because we didn't obtain then a measure of the change. So we use a qualitative method again, an observational one. It was based on semi-directive interviews, but also it was observational because since the project it was made up of two pillars, which is Facebook interaction and interaction during the meeting, we observed them into the Facebook environment, and we also interviewed them on the whole experience. And while analyzing the interviews we got, we used inductive reasoning, which means we started from the quotes and we then individuate categories. We try to make an abstraction from the quotes and to understand what they were telling us, to find categories that describe their experience. So the first step of the method, the observational one, is we were added on Facebook in October 2010, and we made a periodical update of participant activities and their profile. And we create activity graph, which I will show you later. The second step of the method, this interview, was conducted by the coordinators in the different countries, and they were given a guideline for the interviews, the face-to-face interview, which cover 4 main aspects. First of all, 5 main aspects. The first one was a description of the participant, of their skills, both social skills and computer skills. Then a description of their experience on Facebook, the description of the experience in the international meetings. And then we asked them to make a connection between Facebook and international meeting, to tell us, if they see a connection between these 2 parts of the ACE project. And then we asked directly which kind of impact they think ACE had in their life. Now I start showing you the data analysis. As regard to Facebook analysis, I will show you results from literature review and then some graphs from Facebook analysis. And for the interviews, I will show you which were, the sample of our interview was 15 participants from the 4 different countries involved. I will show you the tendencies of the development between expectation and impact. Expectation they had was one of the first questions, and the impact was the last one. And I will show you the categories we identified and the recognition of patterns. Okay, as results from literature review about Facebook. As we know from literature, Facebook in general is used to maintain existing relationships or make them more solid instead of creating new ones. The necessary steps for being on Facebook is to decide how to present yourself, so self-disclosure and the construction of the self in the environment. There is somebody who argued that social relations in Facebook become primarily informational and not narrative, so they are a bit more superficial. But in the meantime, Facebook and in general social network websites show to be a public spaces that support socialization and assimilation of cultural knowledge, particularly if we think about the first point, meaning that in Facebook, who interact is who has already a good connection, so it's really a place for them to share something. Also, we saw that computer-mediated communication in general is good for autism because the environment itself, how it is done, help giving motivation. And since the environment is structured, it is some kind of exchange, as Janja said. Okay, these are the graph. It's quite a mess, as you can see. This is the graph which shows the wall messages exchange till February 2011. In general, subscription to Facebook started in April 2010, and then they goes on till the end of 2010, when they even beginning of 2011, when the new people were added. Anyway, wall messages were the most easy to exchange, but still, if we count that from April to February, there are 10 months, more or less. The exchanges in the wall, they are not many, because the arrows show the direction, but then the numbers show the number of exchanges. So if you see, the highest number are like 7, so in 10 months, it's less than 1 contact per month. And okay, so these are all the participants, and the one you see in red, they are the coordinators from the different countries. But the situation slightly changed in September. This is the graph from September, where, okay, it's even more a mess. I'm sorry for that. It's just to give you an idea. It's not that you have to focus on something. So the exchanges increase, but still, as we look at the numbers in the arrows, the frequency is not really high, because we have to consider that then from April to September it's 1 year and a half. As regard to comments to pictures, link, or kind of things, they are even less than the wall messages. This is again the situation in February. And in September, they are more, but still, there's not really many interaction. The interesting thing, you cannot see it from here, is that the increase on the exchange mostly happened between the last meeting, which was held in June in Estonia, and this time. So the last 3 months have been a bit more active. Then I have others about the games. As you can see here, games are different from other kind of messages because they involve just a subgroup. You know, there was a subgroup active because a couple of them, they are really active and interested in this kind of entertainment. The group was just a bit enlarged later, but still they were, you know, here where we have the highest number, as you can see, because they were really, as we knew from the interview then, they were really interested in trying to collaborate and cooperate in such kind of games like Farmville, because it was entertainment and it was a kind of social work. I mean, they worked together to build something. Then we have tags, which was more or less non-existent, and likes. Likes is the interesting thing of likes is that it's a sort of an intrusive way for coordinators to interact with participants in Facebook, because the coordinators from different countries didn't want to intrude into the communication, the natural communication. So lots of them, they use the like to provoke new kind of exchange. And it quite worked even in the long term. Okay, so now I quit with this strange graph. I hope they were not too boring. And I come to the interview. Okay, as I told you before, this is the evolution between expectation and impact in every participant we interviewed. And in the first place, they had some kind of expectation that goes from contacts to improve communication, to contact among a certain group, or the highest expectation was the one of finding friends. And somebody also wasn't so sure about what to expect, because they say, you know, everything is new and we don't know exactly what can come out from this project. But what I call here the tendency in the third column is always positive, because as you see then the impact that they assess at the end of the interview goes always beyond what they expected at the beginning, because they then say that they have wider horizon after participating to ACE, they met friends, they feel to belong to a group. So in general we can see that the project, they assess themselves, they self-reported that the project for them was really positive, has a positive tendency in their life. Okay, the sample we interviewed was constituted by 15 people, 10 males and 5 females, aged between 15 and 38 years, from these 4 countries, 6 from Estonia, 2 from UK, 4 from Romania, and 3 from Slovenia. And their abilities with the PC and the internet, 8 were used to PC and 4 were advanced user of internet or computer. And from 2 of them we don't really have indications, but we then discovered how they use Facebook, that they seem anyway quite used to it. And regarding what we got as description of their social relation, we have 3 people who say having rare interaction, 6 that assess that they really feel they have problem with strangers, with new people, otherwise they don't feel they have project. 3 they say problems, 3 they say they have good interaction overall, and 2 seem not to be so interested in describing, not in relation themselves, but in describing how this relation were. So the results of the interview have been categorized into four different categories. No, sorry, the categories from the interview has been divided into 4 fields. The first one is Facebook. So how they describe their experience in Facebook. The approach they had to Facebook was both positive and negative. Somebody says is a really good chance to be connected, but somebody said it's not really an active environment. I have my own personal Facebook, and it's much more interesting. As regarding to the way they use Facebook, they had different kind of modality. Like most of them show not most of them, but part of them show a passive way of using it. They also express it with verbs such as I'd like to go and visit, I like to look what somebody else is saying. But an interesting thing is that almost everybody, even if they have a passive use of Facebook, they are also selective. So they choose what kind of application to use, what kind of communication. They prefer private to public communication or vice versa. And they distinguish between useful and unuseful application. And there are some who have a productive use, who really try hard to use every kind of application they're interested in. In general, the fact that everybody shows selective use is it depends on the fact that since there are so many applications, they can really focus on the one that mostly reflects their interest. As regarding to their frequency in the use, we have rare, frequent, and seldom user, but most of the time we have rare user. So as Johnny already said, like the interaction on Facebook wasn't really, maybe at the beginning it was really a good idea to put them in connection, but then it didn't really goes very well for all the longer time. So, and I just commented here because in Facebook literature we find that there are people called lurker because they say Facebook is more voyeuristic. People goes there to see what the others are doing. But here, the fact that we have selective users, even if they are passive, so they show that they say that of course they are going to visit and look other profiles and activity, which is quite natural for Facebook. They don't seem right being obsessed about going and seeing. They are curious about the picture, they are not happy about the text they receive, but they are not, like, they prefer, almost everybody say that the trigger event to go to Facebook is to receive a notification of a new activity. So it's like everybody is eager to go there just when there is something new happening. Okay, regarding the meetings, we have the approach to the meeting was a positive approach for everybody because they commented that they have a possibility to discover and that all new things happen. There were just somebody who showed negative approach to recreational activity, but not because they say they were not interesting, but because sometimes they say they were too stressful. There were many recreational activities and they would have preferred to relax a bit more. But that is also interesting because it connects to the difficulties I will tell you later. So the attitude over meetings, the mood of the participants. Somebody show preferences that goes in the direction of friendship we were discussing before. So somebody over time said they really wanted to go to meetings to see 2 or 3 people they are really in a good contact with. Somebody said they have no preferences. They were happy to go there and to see the people, but they didn't have any preferences in the group. But it's really few of them seem to have a passive fruition. Since they say there are really lots of activities to do, they sort of participate because it's a part of the deal as for Facebook, but they are sometimes a bit tired. And while somebody else seemed really to have an active approach, they participated to gave presentation, they were maybe really stressed, but then they were very happy to contribute to the meeting itself. About the feelings they express about international meetings, everybody show a great enthusiasm. They say that meetings make them belong into a group. Somebody said they feel committed. As I said before, even the one who said, I presented to the conference and I was really, really scared. But then when I started presenting, everything went well and I was so happy to contribute to the conference. And somebody really said, I'm committed because I realized that this is a unique opportunity to raising awareness. And somebody is struggling because the project will last forever. I mean, they want this to be part of their whole life. What is really interesting is that it's a clear, when describing the meeting, there's a clear feeling recognition of the time. Like, talking about being scared about traveling, being surprised about things, being bored about something. And so it's always, their participation is always there. I mean, that's a real contraposition between Facebook, which they try to describe, and these meetings where there is really something live going on. And regarding communication, so how communication goes during this international meeting, there's lots of communication going on. They comment that direct communication is much better than the mediated one, even though they experience difficulties in communication, because English is the language that is used in the project, but it seems to be a barrier sometimes. And somebody say they have low confidence in their personal competencies, so even if they, and this is sometimes connected to English itself, because even if they know maybe some English, they don't feel confident enough to try. But this is again something we will see more when we will discuss about difficulties. So regarding the relation between Facebook and international meeting, we ask, like, okay, do you think that is the meeting that provoke communication on Facebook, or is rather the contrary? Everybody agreed on the fact that meeting provoke new communication on Facebook, or just some or a lot. But in general, everybody show a great preference for the meeting anyway. So regarding the difficulties I was already mentioning before, on a personal level, there were these, they expressed this problem on language barriers. So English is not easy for everybody, so limits communication and somebody suffer from it, while others recognize this difficulty but have a real positive approach. They say, okay, English is a barrier, we know it, can be a barrier, but it's really a good opportunity also to try to improve our English during this project. There are a real problem of understanding the mechanism of Facebook and the others' conditions. At an organizational level, there are some rare cases that is expressed, I express here maybe in a bad way, like they feel regulated from our side. It's better what Johnny said before, like they sort of see that Facebook is part of the deal, but they recognize that it's restricted to a smaller group, so it's for that not so active group, because they have natural way of using it, because they keep comparing that, as I said, with the personal Facebook. Somebody complained that these meetings are too full of activities, there is too much to wait, and the presentation are stressful. But, as I said before, as I mentioned before, the interesting thing is that sometimes those difficulties have been a possibility, and this is shown by the interview earlier. With these difficulties, they overcome the limits or the fears. And regarding the impact, we are here just recategorize what you saw before. There are impact on an individual level. They assess that now they feel belonging to a group, an international group. Somebody was really happy about the new experience that also refer again to international meeting. They said that they now gain an ability to express their feeling, and they improve also their English. They feel involved and committed to the project. Somebody else say that they not really recognize an effect, and that here we got luckily the help of the coordinator that helped us recognizing some effects that they were not assessing. On an interpersonal level, some successful impact we had. There are others feeling recognition, understanding others' perspective, meeting friends. So they were not just, for somebody, it was not just having new contacts, but was really meeting friends. And this goes in line maybe to what we said. Maybe they, at the beginning, had this expectation of having contacts, and then in the reality, they meet friends. So friendship was a concept that changed over time, but they then finally meet some friends. They maybe change because some of them really meet some friends, so they have a more realistic view of the friendship itself. and also communication increase. On a social level, somebody assessed that ACE had a great impact on everybody, so they are aware of the fact that it was good for everybody, and that's why they feel really committed to the project. So I just want to make a step forward to what I present so far. So far I presented categories. Then I tried to find a way to put people into this pattern that come out from the categories we recognize. So we have like I'm sorry, maybe I didn't use the really nice term to describe the patterns, but you cannot agree or not agree on that. It's still a work in progress. This is something that is the last result I put out. So like the pattern one is the weakness. It's somebody who has a non-PC level, has mixed social skill from no relation to good level of relationship, who wants to have communication improvement and to find friends, is a Facebook productive user but has a critical judgment on Facebook, like he keep comparing private versus public communication, or he complain about the fact that he's not active enough and they don't have feedback. Who has a positive approach to meeting, recognizes that English is a barrier, and as expectation, who has as impact, he had the fact that he feels that he belongs to a group, and that increased communication, friendship, and experience. The second pattern is the one I call the beneficiary. So the one that is used to PC and internet, has mixed social skill, wanted to find contacts through the project, was a Facebook passive user but selective one, who considered that meeting influences Facebook communication, has a positive approach to meeting, recognized English as a barrier, and who had the impact of belonging to a group and express his feeling in a better way. The one I call the committed, as about the project and the meeting themselves, that they really want to use them to raise awareness, they want them to last, they want to be more active even in the future. And they are advanced PC user, they show mixed social skills, they expected to find new contacts and to be entertained by the project. They are Facebook productive user and selective users. They also show a critical judgment of Facebook, so they have a mixed frequency of use, so even if they are productive and selective, they can be rare user, seldom user, or frequent user. They say that meeting influence Facebook, they have a positive approach to meeting, as everybody, and they have an active participation to meeting. They really like to have a role, and they feel this commitment to the project. They recognize the importance, they want to raise awareness, to use it to raise awareness, they want to make the difference. And also they recognize the English barrier, but they have a positive approach toward it. They say ACE is a good opportunity to change it. And as an impact, in line more or less with the others, they show that the impact was to belong to a group, to meet friends, and to being committed. As I told you, this is a step forward, the categorization I just made. It is maybe a way to think about how to intervene in the future, taking into account that there can be different way of reacting to this kind of project, or also just to understand a bit more of the different approach that we saw over these 2 years. Okay, as a conclusion, so facing difficulties help overcoming fears. So there were difficulties, that's not a scandal, but these participants tell about the feelings in relation with the international meeting, and they show to be happy to overcome their fears. In line with previous research, Facebook works better with existing relationship. We saw that there was an increase in the last 3 months in Facebook, especially after the last meeting, where people really get to know better after 1 year, more than 1 year, but still is not really the one like the best way to communicate. They were really happy about the fact that they could meet, so Facebook was a good opportunity at the beginning to make them see each other before meeting in person. But still, the group is really conscious about the fact that they are lucky to have this possibility to travel and to meet in person in an international group. So the structured environment of Facebook helped anyway, because when talking about Facebook, everybody, for example, is happy about the fact that they can, they have birthdays reminders, so they can wish happy birthday to the other people of the group. So this structured environment sometimes help overcoming some difficulties with communicating with friends. And in general, ACE project has shown to have a good impact on every participant, as we saw in this tendency between expectation and impact. Anyway, they recognize this unnatural use of Facebook, but the strongest impact is that for everybody it went beyond expectation. So reality showed to be stronger even than the ideas they had at the beginning, as usual. I'm just mentioning something about a future step that could be possible, like ACE was an exploratory study. And it can help, for example, identifying a model and a question for a larger scale intervention. The pattern recognition, the one that I showed you before, can be an input for a new tailored offer or for structure a new project. But a future project should definitely include, now that we have done this exploratory study, a larger sample and a control group, a stable sample, and other kind of methodology applied to understand what happened. Thank you for your attention, and sorry for my going back and forth.
Any question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry for what I...
In your literature review, how many articles about social networks and autism, and how many about social networks and general population?
Okay, in my literature review, there are, of course, most of the articles are focused on general population. I found a couple of interesting ones on social network applied to autism, but that is because, as it seemed from my literature review, then correct me if I'm wrong, it's also a quite new focus, no? It's like a new population. It's something that has never been done or just a few times. So of course, this is exploratory even for that reason, and this was interesting. So, do you want to ask something? Any other question? Okay. It's easier.
Do they find talking in their own language easier than speaking in English?
Yeah, that's true. That's what we saw, even in Facebook. That was why maybe this category that is there of this English as a barrier, because it would be great for an international group to have a common language, because it's a starting point for a good communication. But still, even when there was natural communication going on Facebook, we saw that it was among the country itself and not in English. So it's of course a barrier also for Facebook.
Kakšno vprašanje? In pa hvala, Maddalena.
Thank you.